Hello and welcome to this week's IG Live. Today we are going to be talking to a creative pair behind the new book, I'm Going to Be a Princess. We're going to be talking to author Stephanie Taylor and to illustrator Jade Orlando. And they are both working with Nosy Crow, who is also with us today. And we're going to be talking about their process for creating this book and collaborating. Think about what they want to be when they grow up and to kind of expand their ideas of what that might be. So I'm excited to get to talk to both of them today. It's always fun when we have two people on. Hi.
Hi.
See, Jade is here as well. Let me just get her on here. Thank you for joining us.
And thank you for having us.
And why don't we jump in? Maybe. Hi, thank you.
Hi.
Maybe you both introduce yourselves and tell us what your journey was to working on children's books, especially because of the book we're going to be discussing today. It would be fun if you could tell us, what did you want to be when you were a kid? What did you want to be when you grew up? So maybe we can start with you, Stephanie.
So when I actually wanted to be a vet when I was little, and then I realised that animals die, and that bit of it didn't appeal too much. But I also always loved dancing, so dance was always a big part of my life. Absolutely loved ballet and contemporary, so I had dreams of going down that route. Yeah.
And how did you decide to become an author instead? Oh, no, she's still there. I lost her. Well, maybe while we wait, Jade, why don't you go ahead?
Sure. As a kid, I know the first thing that I wanted to be was an ice cream truck driver. I have no idea why. And then I wanted to be an animal taxonomist, which is a biologist that categorizes animals. I've always really loved animals. And then I remember I wanted to be the person that draws the characters on the front of cereal boxes. And I didn't know what that was called, but a bit later I figured out that was called being an illustrator, and I kind of stuck with that one.
I love it. I love that evolution. And actually, ice cream truck driver sounds pretty amazing.
Sounds pretty cool. You can probably eat as much as you want.
Yeah, exactly. And Nosy Crow, thank you all for joining. Yes, excited to meet Stephanie Taylor and Jade Orlando, as are we. And let's see, I'm not sure. Hopefully we'll get Stephanie back on here in a minute. So maybe we can jump ahead to some of the questions for you, Jade. And I know you've worked on quite a number of books. So what did you think when you first found out about this one? What was your idea, or what was your process in creating the illustrations for this?
Yeah, I was so excited when I got this book offer because I just loved how it was like kind of turned the traditional princess idea on its head. I've done a lot of biographies of people illustrations, so I like doing biographical illustrations, and I really like that this one kind of combined the two. Since it was in the UK, I've never actually been to the UK myself. I would love to, but I'm here in the US in Atlanta, Georgia. And so I kind of had to do some research on, the different environments, different buildings, different vehicles even. Like on the page, let me see if I can find it. The page with the doctor where she goes to the hospital. It's near the front.
Is this one?
This one.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I actually realized that ambulances in the UK look completely different than ambulances in the United States. So it's kind of little things like that you have to research to try to be accurate and try to give the story some life. So I do a lot of research about the environment. And when designing Maya herself, I thought about her character. She's very like fiery and passionate and confident. So I gave her, big hair, colorful clothing, just to kind of highlight her bold personality.
Right. And something I was interested in, I saw that you talked about in another interview, was creating the historical characters. And I know you've said that you worked on other biographies, because on the one hand, you're talking about you have a combination of fiction and nonfiction in this book. So you're talking about real people, and yet you want to keep it with the, the kind of whimsical, I don't want to say card, like illustration style. How did you kind of balance that with being accurate and yet keeping with the overall style of the book?
Yeah, that's always pretty tricky. You know, it's easy. Well, it's not easy ever really, but it's easier to do one or the other. It can be kind of tricky to combine the two. So what I like to do is, you know, I think about the characters, the biographical characters, like main attributes, like her body type, her hair, like her defining features, you know, like the ballet outfit. And I try to hit those defining features to kind of make the character recognizable. But then when I consider the, you know, illustration style, the technique, some of the more minor details, you know, you don't always have to be so realistic with them. Oh, welcome back.
Bye.
Yay. Yeah. So I find to combine the two, if I, you know, marry the techniques and just get those really defining characteristics of the biographical person, then it helps to kind of meld the two together to make it feel like one story.
Right. So you're picking out certain aspects of them and not necessarily having it be completely accurate, but just kind of like the defining. And so talking about all of this, maybe we can go to you, Stephanie, and talk, because we're talking about the different historical actual women who were included in the book. How did you pick which ones were going to be included? I think there are about 15 different women that are included. And did you have any personal favorites, or were there any that you think people might be surprised to learn about that maybe are lesser known?
Yeah, I mean, Misty Copeland was always going to be part of the book because of my love of ballet. And I guess I tried to pick a wide variety of women from different backgrounds, you know, so that's why we've got some from dance, from sports, from the sciences, just so that young children can see that there isn't really a limit, you know, and that you can't sort of, if you're going to be an athlete, there's nothing wrong with that over being a scientist. It's about excelling, it's about being your best self and fulfilling all of your ambitions to the best of your ability, and having to overcome obstacles as well. And all of those women had to come, I had to overcome obstacles along their way as well, along their path. So
right. And
yeah.
and you said that this came out of conversations that you had with your goddaughter. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so Maya and I used to walk home from school, as in the story, every sort of Wednesday afternoon, and we talk about everything and anything. And she was such a little thing at this point in time. She must have been about 5. Can I just say that Jade's picture of Maya is so accurate. It's just
funny
blew me away when I
had
saw
never
it.
seen Maya. We just kind of got lucky
It's
hitting there.
actually
Based on the
uncanny. It's uncanny how accurate it is. But on this particular occasion, we'd had a conversation about what she wanted to be when she was an adult, and that's what she said. And I was like, absolutely no way. And we just kind of talked about it a little bit, and that's where the conversation ended. And then a few weeks later, it woke me up. It literally woke me up in the night. And I just thought, I've got to write this down, because these little ideas had started to come into my head, and I just thought, okay, I can use this. So yeah, it planted a seed.
Well, I love that you took this idea, and I think a lot of us have had similar conversations with little girls that they want to be a princess, and yet you used it to really expand kind of people's ideas of what they could be, or even what a princess is. And we are at the tail end of Black History Month here in the US, and one of the things I loved about this book is that you brought in all this wonderful history from Africa that's often overlooked. So can you tell us a little bit more about your decision for doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I had never heard of Queen Amina before. I actually just did some research myself about African royal families, and a very short YouTube video popped up about her, and I just thought, what an incredible individual. And the more that I researched, the more admiration I had for her, and I just knew that she had to be the princess Maya wanted to be, rather than, you know, one of the members of our royal family or any other royal family around the world. I just thought she was so exceptional in everything that she overcame to be who she was in the position that she was in. Just spoke to me, and I just thought, yeah, we need to learn more about her.
Yeah, it's so wonderful, like you said. This is not maybe who we normally think of when girls talk about being a princess, and yet what a wonderful example. And I should say that for all of the women that are included in the book, there's extra material at the back that you've included, which is great because that can kind of keep the conversation going with kids. Hopefully this sparks their curiosity about them. What was your research? I know we talked about kind of how you chose the women to include. What was the process of kind of researching them and deciding what what about their story that you were going to include in the book?
Yeah, for me, I just wanted to research as many women as I possibly could. It was COVID, so unfortunately, most of my research happened online. I wasn't able to sort of get out to libraries and things like that. I personally was shielding through COVID as well. So I think my approach to researching other books would be different this time around. So I can't say that I read loads of books or anything like that, because unfortunately I had to just go with people that I knew, and then research other people in certain areas. So I kind of looked up, you know, first Black athlete to win an Olympic gold medal, and saw what popped up and had to do it that way. So, you know, my research wasn't traditional, you know, the way that we traditionally would do it. But yeah, it worked out. It worked out well in the end.
Well, how about you, Jade? I know we talked about how you went about kind of doing the illustrations for the women that are included, but did you have any? Were there ones that were more difficult to do the research, like Queen Amina? One that we don't know quite as much about. Was it hard to find how you were going to visualize her?
Yeah, she was a little tricky because, you know, everything out there about her, there's not photographs, it's other people's artistic renditions. And it's kind of, you know, a balance between wanting to show like illustrative flair, but also trying to be accurate. You know I took quite a while kind of researching the buildings, like the castles and the different, different buildings that were being built, because in the spread, she's kind of having her people are kind of in the first stages of building her lands. And I did a lot of research about, you know, what materials were used, like what the buildings looked like. And even if they didn't make it into the final illustration, it just kind of helped to build the world for me to be able to illustrate her. So I definitely do a lot of research. I also had fun researching Annie Easley's rockets, like the different rocket plans, and trying to get that accurate. So I find that to be a fun part of illustrating.
Yeah, and I love that for people that are reading it, that they can have confidence that that you've taken so much care with all of these little details.
I did my best.
You know, that some of us might not even think about. You know, that gives the kids something to really look into further on the page. And Stephanie, I know your mission with the book was to inspire young readers, making sure they could see themselves in the pages of your book. Why is that representation so important, especially when you're talking about inspiring them to turn their dreams into reality?
I think it was important for me because not only when I was a child, but when my adult children were little, we didn't see those representations. And if we did, they were kind of quite grotesque caricatures, really. I remember I've spoken about a character in a book when I was learning to read in primary school called Little Black Sambo. And it was just this little boy that had come out of the jungle. And I was just like, this has nothing to do with my life, my parents' life. I can't recognise myself or anybody that I know in it. I was very fortunate in that one of my sisters, spent many years in the States, so when my children were little, she would send them books, but there weren't many here in the UK. So it was really important to me, as somebody that spent 24 years in education, that we started to see more and more books like that, but not just that, but also that taught us our history. Because yes, we are seeing more children of colour, Black, Brown, Asian children in books, but there aren't that many that are teaching us young children, very young children, about their history. That's still quite hard to come across. I don't know if it's different in the States, but it's still quite difficult here.
I think, yeah, I think I'm not sure how the situation is different. I think it's getting a little bit better, but one of the things that I love about your book is that it's very positive history. There's a lot of talk about how sometimes it's important to learn about the difficulty and the trauma in the past, but also to talk about the positive things like Queen Amina, that people, you know, to realize that they're also that.
I think children need to build their resilience. That's something that we talk about a lot, and I think that all of the women in this book show us that with, you know, that kind of nature, you know, with the resilience at the centre of everything that they do, then they can succeed despite whatever obstacles might be put in their way. If it's really what they want, then they can keep going, they can achieve their dreams. Yeah.
Right. And Jade, I don't know if you want to talk about that a little, because this is Stephanie. I think if I'm right, this is your first book.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, which is amazing to me. That, I mean, what a way to start. It's wonderful. And but Jade, I know you've done other books, and one of the things when I was getting ready for this that kind of impressed me when I was looking at the books you've done, they all have diverse representation. So why is that something that's really, that you think is really important to include in books?
Yeah, I mean, Stephanie kind of said it all. Like as a kid, I didn't often see representations of myself or anything kind of outside the status quo, like, you know, as a girl. And so now as an adult, now that I have the power to kind of control what projects I take on and put my art into the world, it's really important to me to show, you know, all kinds of people, whether it's different abilities, different body types, different colors. I think it's so important in whatever story I do, whatever it's about, to make sure that kids can see themselves in it, and that there's positive representations of, you know, for looking back at myself as a little girl, that I could, you know, picture her wanting to read and being excited to read. So it's very important to me to really promote that message and to include that in all my art.
Well, I love it. And for those that are joining us late, we are talking about this book, I'm Going to Be a Princess. And I'm going to jump back a little bit because I know we had some technical problems at the beginning. And Stephanie, I don't think we got to hear from you how you decided to become an author. I know you had talked about kind of other things you wanted to be, like you wanted to be a vet. So how did that end up, especially, I know you said you were in education for many years. How did you decide to write a children's book?
Well, I've always sort of written for my children when they were little. I'd always make up stories for them. I think one of the very earliest ones, I was trying to get my daughter to get out of the bath. She never get out of the bath, and she had this little plug that was a spider, and we kind of turned it into a story about a plug hole monster. So I've always written, but never really been brave enough to send anything away. And then during COVID, with this story, I'm Going to Be a Princess, sort of lurking in the back of my mind, I just thought, I'm having to shield. I'm stuck at home. I need to do something really positive with that time. And with lots of encouragement from my husband and my children, I just started to research ways in which to get an agent or to find a publicist, and sent it out to several people. And I was really lucky that James from the Catchpole agency got back in touch with me, and he said to me, "Oh, I'll get back to you in 3 weeks." And I just thought, bit of a brush off, but he did, and he's been brilliant at guiding me through the whole process of, from that very sort of early edit to what you have in front of you now, because it was all new to me. You know, so, and it's been wonderful. I did a few short courses, got some guidance from some really wonderful people, and yeah, that's how this book came to be.
And so now then I know you said you've had other stories and other ideas. Are you working on any other books right now?
Yeah, there's a couple that unfortunately I can't say an awful lot about, but I'm using the same idea of trying to bring in historical characters that we may not either know much about, or like Queen Amina, not know anything about at all. But yes, I hopefully will be able to say something soon, but not just yet.
Well, we'll keep an eye out for any announcements so we can share about
Thank you.
that.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I'm quite excited. Yeah.
And what about you, Jade? What are you working on now?
I mean, luckily I'm quite busy right now. So I've got a lot going on. Also can't say too much about the projects I have going on, but I'm working on a couple poetry books. I'm working on another fictional picture book, and kind of extra excited. I author illustrated my first set of board books that will be coming out next year. So they're featuring my love of cats. I'm a huge cat person. So I have that coming out next year, and I'm really excited.
Well, we will keep an eye out for all of that. Thank you both so much for joining us today. I was really excited because I just love this book, and it's such a treat to get to talk with you both. And for anybody who's joining us late, you can look for this on our YouTube channel later today, and also on our Instagram channel just a few minutes. So thank you both.
Oh, thank you. And I'm sorry about the technical hitches I had, but thank you so much.
Yes.
Oh, well, thank you for hanging in there and getting back to us. And I see Nosy Crow is sharing the link, and we will make sure to share the direct link to the book as well.
Amazing.
Thank you so much. I love working on this book, and I'm really excited to see it out in the world. So thank you.
It's been wonderful.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.